How are you?
Well, hi. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited. I was looking once again at your profile just recently, and I'm kind of pumped.
So, can you see me okay?
I cannot see you at all.
Okay, I can see you perfectly. You're beautiful.
Oh,
All right. So, I do not understand why you cannot see me. Do you want to see me?
I'd like to see you if I could see you. Oh, there we are.
There we go. Yay. Okay. So, tell me a little bit about, tell me why you want to talk to me. Tell me how this goes and how I can help.
Okay. Well, I run a private mastermind, and it's very specific to the science area. And as specific as that is, it's also very conceptual for how do I bring a product to market. I'm in a clinic. I am treating these diseases. I see this problem. I have this idea in my head, but what do I do? So that's the whole concept of the mastermind in a nutshell. I like to bring people with the right expertise who've been there, done that, and they can tell their story and their successes or their failures, as sometimes we learn very well from failures.
So,
Yeah.
so a couple of things.
Okay.
I help inventors get from I have an idea to the marketplace. As far as, we're going to the Med Trade Show in April, which is for home health care. So if you've got any of your people who is like, all right, I've got a home health care product and all I need is patent pending status on a prototype. That's it. All right. Most inventors are not startups. Most inventors, like you said, you're in a clinic, you have an aha moment, but you're not a startup. All right. And the difference is the money. All right. For an inventor who has an aha moment, it's in your area of expertise, or it's walking the dog, or, one of ours was a pacifier with an aromatherapy because her baby was sick at 2 a.m. and she couldn't get any medication. How cool would it have been to, be able to solve 2 problems at once, the pacifier issue and the breathing issue? So she's got a very cool product, right? Doesn't want to be a startup. She's a mommy. Okay. So
Exactly.
the issue then is, with a startup, inventors, when they say they've got an invention, they get forced into doing a business plan, going to a startup mode, spending all of their savings, mortgaging the house, and they don't have the business experience, manufacturing experience, or marketing experience. They were, like you said, in a lab. They were a mommy. They were, a teacher, a car mechanic. So what do we do? All right. The idea then is licensing. All right. Get it to an expert who's got access to the marketplace, who's going to do the heavy lifting financially and defend the patent. Right.
That's a big one.
It is. It is for most, especially if you are in, those technology fields. Defending the patent can be huge. And then when we license it, the licensee now, they do that heavy lifting. They do the marketing. And for a lot of inventors, they'll call me and they'll say, okay, I've got my patent issued, I've got prototypes, and I don't have any money left. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. We've got to be able to get to launch mode. We've got to be able to get to a place where we can get people to see it.
And that's so right, Rita, because I deal with a lot of the business development folks at major pharma companies or venture capitalist firms, and they're like, these guys come to me and they have no idea. They had an aha moment. They didn't do any research. They're married to their baby, but oh my God, their baby really isn't needed. And how do I break that to them?
Right.
So it's about getting them to understand the journey also requires a couple of steps at the beginning. You have to.
Exactly. When you go to my website, you'll see on the top left and then in the right under resources, or at the top right, 2 icons. One is the Inventor Galaxy Guide. It's a very straightforward workbook on getting your product teed up for licensing and the steps that are involved and the money swings. All right. So whether you're looking at, teeing it up yourself for licensing, or you're looking at the new program that we've got going, which is right next to it. It's called Archimedes Offspring, where an inventor can go now and get funding. They can get vetted and actually get funding to help it through the patent process, the engineering, prototyping, and getting it to launch. All right. The first thing that they've got to do is a comprehensive patent search by a third party. Right. And they'll tell me, my attorney did it. No, that's a conflict of interest. The attorney wants to write the patent. They rarely do an international search. If it's been done anywhere in the world, you're not going to get a US patent. No sooner rather than later. For a lot of our inventors, you know, a comprehensive search when we do it is $500. It's the US, the international search, and a product search. It is a search. All right, it's done by somebody who's got a master's in research. They're not related to doing the patent. And you're going to get back a report that tells you everything you need to go look at with a link to that patent or to that website. All right, $500. For a lot of inventors, for $500 gives them closure. It's like, oh my God, this has been done, you know, a dozen different ways and, you know, a long time ago. So I'm not going to get it. And you don't need a patent to go to market. You need a patent to negotiate.
That's right. And that's another really important step, Rita. Nobody seems to understand that just because my idea has been done doesn't mean that I can't design it somehow a little bit different so I'm not infringing, but I like to do it this way over here so I don't get a patent. There's other ways to deal with this.
There's other ways to deal with it. But if you go into Target, all right, and you look down the row of flashlights, there's 20 different flashlights. Some of them have patent pending improvements on them. You know, everybody knows a flashlight has got a light coming out of the end of a stick. The guy that invented the stick that would wrap around a pole, that was cool. All right. So you can take an old idea and reinvent it. You can take the old idea and add something new to it that gives it a patentability, you know, opportunity. All right. That you could license it then to, you know, someone who's going to make it and get it on those big box store shelves or get it out there for you or get it teed up with something else. We had a lady years ago that did something that went inside the garbage disposal, and Home Depot wanted it. But more importantly, one of the manufacturers of garbage disposals wanted it. We licensed it. They teed it up. They got it into all the stores. So we really look at licensing as solving multiple problems for the inventor.
Yes. Oh, without a doubt. I'm working on a licensing for one of my clients as well right now. And in the I want to say device biologic drug field, it's just as important because these guys don't have major manufacturing facilities in order to be able to meet the market need.
Right.
So if you're doing something that you know is an osteoarthritis, that's a big market.
Yes.
How are you going to, even if you're a professor at a university, be able to have that benchtop lab go and meet, you know, thousands of people? You can't.
Exactly. You know, Gatorade. Everybody knows Gatorade. All right. It was a simple licensing deal because the Florida Gators play football. They do not manufacture.
That's right.
And that's who invented it, was the Florida Gators. That's why it's called Gatorade.
You know, people don't know some of these stories. No.
No. I mean, there's great stories out there, but, you know, like they always said, you know, the Florida Gators play football. They do not sell a beverage.
That's exactly right. So what do you find are the biggest challenges then when people come to you that they're looking to solve?
Money.
Oh, yeah.
Money. It's always, you know, that's the first one. And that's why when I go through my Inventor's Galaxy Guide, the second topic that, you know, that I talk about is money. How do you get over that hump? There are some options now that didn't exist even 6 months ago. We're looking for products to vet for the Archimedes Offspring funding, but really understanding, you know, what am I going to have to do? How far do I have to go? What is the money going to look like before they start spending any? Because so often they'll say, you know, well, I spent $50,000 on my patent and I don't have anything left. Do you have a functioning prototype? Do you have proof of concept? And we had a gentleman here that wanted to do kind of like an enterprise space pod. He was not a physicist, okay? He had no idea what was going on, but he wanted to do this space pod that would be parked in the forest where you could go and schedule a one-on-one meeting with God.
Oh.
Now, I don't know that God had a buy-in on that. I think it's kind of called a church, and there was one on the corner, but you get the idea. He actually found a patent attorney who would write the patent for that. Most likely he will issue, because it is not the job of the patent examiner to say this is a stupid idea.
That's right.
You know? And so, you know, learning all the steps and then picking, you know, okay, spending $200 an hour for a registered patent attorney as opposed to $600 for a registered patent attorney, all that means is you're spending more. It doesn't necessarily mean it's better. And on the other swing of that is inventors who come to me and say, I wrote my own patent, I can't work with that. I have never met a licensee that would license a patent where the inventor did their own, just because they don't understand the nuances of what the examiner is looking for, the formatting, how everything has got to be tied together in the drawings. They just don't understand that ideally theirs bumps up against everything else in the field. The inventors who do their own, they know what they've got and they write what they have. They don't know the finesse of bumping up against other things.
There's a lot of nuances I find in the drug world with this, exactly, because you need to know what's out there in the scope of the field. You need to be able to write for those holes, and you need to be able to think ahead. If this goes through, it could take $2 billion and 14 years to get to market, and I'm going to want to be able to protect beyond that. Where's my next patent coming from?
Right, exactly. And so what we do is we've got, I work with multiple attorneys that are in that $200 range and different skill sets. So that's one of the things that helps us manage then the cost. If any one of those attorneys started billing for emails and phone calls, I'd beat them with a stick. Like when you say it's going to take me, 10 hours to do this part of it, we work in blocks of time. And that needs to include then the hand-holding, the answering questions. I don't want my inventors to guess at an answer. I want them to take the time to either email me the question, I check with the attorney, or they email the attorney, so that we've got an exact answer. I know a lot about this stuff, so I can answer a lot of the questions, but don't guess. Don't guess at the answer.
Exactly.
And so, it's like I said, it's the money swing. How much are they going to have to spend? Can they get more? I don't want them leveraging their house and their 401k and everything else just to get to a point. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to go to market and I cannot get to a trade show. I cannot get in front of the faces that I need to get to.
So let's talk about the trade shows for a minute, because trade shows and conferences and all of that, that's really important in order to get to a lot of those business development folks and the venture capitalist folks that, to take that idea right the way through. You're going to need the cash, you're going to need the capital, you're going to need the expertise. Where do you meet them? Exactly,
at a trade show. That's where they go shopping. And part of the issue with VCs is that, they want to know, have you sold any? Do you have proof of concept? What does your business plan look like? A licensee doesn't give two hoots about what your business plan looks like. They've got their own business plan. They don't want you telling them, oh, we could sell this many. They already know how many they're going to sell. They already have an idea of what manufacturing and development is going to look like. And they don't expect you to sell the idea. If you license it, they're going to get royalties. All right. They don't expect you to sell it in, 5 years for 10 times the money, 10 times the investment. And a VC does. So in 5 years now, you're unemployed. And we know that the average that you get, if you're a first-time inventor and you get VC money, you're lucky to get out of it 1 year's income as a first-time inventor. You're lucky if you get to ride in the trunk of the car for it. At least when you license it, you still control the intellectual property. And even if you go through Archimedes' offspring, and they own then about 19% of the patent, you're still in control. If the licensee shelves it, we can pull it back. We can go someplace else. So there's just, there's a lot of things that go on in that startup VC world that are not favorable to the inventor.
Now, you used the phrase first time. So do you
Right.
find it with some experience that depending on how you want to structure things, like how does that work?
When I run into an inventor that's got multiple products in the marketplace, they've learned a lot. That's one thing. They've got proof that their ideas are going to make money. So a lot of times now the VCs will look at them differently. They will give them, a bigger say in the way the product gets to market. They will give them a bigger piece of the action. All right. So it's, and even when we're looking at licensing, all right, once they've licensed one, especially if they stay in their sweet spot. All right. If I've got a gentleman who's doing, I've got one gentleman that does specialty LED lighting systems. And as long as he's in his sweet spot, he keeps going and he's already got buyers lined up because he's already selling product to those buyers. When he gets out in the fringes and he goes, oh, we had this aha moment in the lab and we've got this other thing, he licenses it. He doesn't try to go beyond what his knowledge is and where his contacts are.
That's perfect. That goes right back to Gatorade.
It does, yes.
Where's my sweet spot? What's my passion? Where am I good? Let license everything else out.
Yep, exactly.
Nice. And how do you find the negotiations tend to happen for, or let's take a step back. So I go to a conference, I'm an inventor. I bump into a handful of people. Now what do? Are they going to follow up with me? Am I just going to have to sit back and the money's going to roll in?
Oh, no. You know better than that.
I do know better than that, yes.
You know better than that. So generally what we're doing is we're looking for connections that we can make after the show. You know, they want to be able to take a look at the patent. We're not going to provide them that at the show. Anybody who's pushed me in the past to sign a deal at a show, I know that that's not going to be a good deal. And we always take a step back. I want time to look at the company. Do they have a reputation of working well with inventors? Are they, you know, on the verge of bankruptcy and they're just looking to save themselves? So we look at a lot of different things before we actually will sign and entertain an agreement. I prefer a letter of intent first so that we can go over the main bullet points and then the contract. If we can't solve the main bullet points, it's silly to have a contract.
Without a doubt. And I find for me that usually there's also a fee involved in that. If you're going to, you know, I go to a conference, I talk to 10 people, I get 3 people at the table, one of them's willing to be the front runner. Once I sign that letter of intent, at that point in time, there's also a little bit of an exclusivity fee that happens. Do you find the same?
Who's paying the exclusivity fee?
Sorry.
Or the licensor?
The person that I'll be licensing to. So in order to keep those other 2 possible players at bay, they're willing to enter into an exclusive arrangement with me. That's a small nominal fee, kind of like when you're putting a deposit down in a house.
Yeah, I mean, if what we do is we look at, you know, who's the best one, and then what is their offer going to look like. Okay. They don't get to tie it up for 6 months.
Yes.
They put their offer on the table. It's like, what are you looking at in your letter? And if we've got 2 letters of intent that come in, and one says, all right, you know what, you've got 60 days to finalize this, or we're going to go and start looking up, you know, because a lot of times what they're trying to do is drag it out. So, you know, a nominal fee versus a time frame, I'd rather work with a time frame than a nominal fee. So it's really just a matter then of the circumstances.
I find my experience with this in the farmer world is that it actually comes with both. So there's my fee, but we'll only do it for 30 days. If we can't finish these points, because as you said, if you can't get through those top points, what the royalty, who's going to own what, how it's going to work, if you can't do that in a way that suits both parties for a win, we're walking away because it's not going to be a good relationship.
Exactly. So, and usually the letter of intent, those points, they happen pretty fast. You know, they've already got an attorney involved on their side. All right, I'm the representation for my client on my side with my attorneys in the background who are available. So, you know, we can get through those points pretty fast. If they're saying, oh, our attorney's got to take a look at it, it's like, that's a red flag because your attorney gave it to you.
It's kind of funny when that happens.
I know, right?
Yes. Now, I also tend to coach my clients as well that when we're putting together usually some sort of a pamphlet, brochure, pitch deck, whatever we want to call it, so that we can recruit those people to come to the table, they also need to have in their mind putting together the due diligence package, right? So I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions. I'm going to say, what's your patent? I'm going to say, where's your clinical data? Now I'm dealing with, it tends to be drugs and biologics and things. So
right.
There's a few more components probably to that, but that's key for the next step and to be prepared. Do you find the same thing?
It depends. You know, when we're going to a show, all right, people want to see the prototypes. So that's very different than yours where you're in, you know, can't say, here, try this drug, you know. So yeah, different areas on that. I see, you know, in home health care, they want to know that baby pacifier works. They want to be able to peel off the aroma, you know, label part of it and know that they're going to have, you know, then the approved levels of the aromatherapy in it and the certifications on that. So yeah, those things we have to provide. But we're still able to do it with then the functioning prototype. And sometimes they're actually doing a manufacturing run, depending on what it is. But, you know, kind of different worlds there, and where we can take a prototype and show it off and have it right there. Then the pitch deck is not nearly as big a deal.
So in that particular case, some of my clients are less about the drugs and devices and the things that go through FDA approval. They're more about, okay, so I was working in an operating room and I saw this particular problem. If I just created this, you know, foam device that sat under her arm this way, then when, you know, whatever happens, I can fix that. That's not something that goes through a same sort of FDA process. That falls directly into what you're talking about, which is you need to have some experience with that. You need to have that touch it, feel it. I want to bring it with me to those different trade shows.
Those types of things, the prototypes are so much more important than a pitch deck. All right, simply because you can claim there's life on Mars and draw pictures of it. Doesn't mean that there really is life on Mars. Yeah. And so, you know, when we can provide the prototype and say, this is how it works, this is where it would be used. All right, that carries a lot more weight than a lot of printed material.
That's perfect. And I always find that's nice, to be able to touch, feel, experiment. Is it soft? Is it hard? It really gets into your thought process a lot more.
Exactly. Because when we go to like MedTrade in April, if people tell me, so, well, all I have is renderings, it's like, then wait till next year. It's not worth it to go, because that's a show where they literally are looking now for the prototypes. They want to know, do you have proof of concept? Is this light going to go on when it hits this button? You know, is this pillow going to work this way? And so that's what we look at, you know, being able to do, is show the prototypes.
And how big is MedTrade?
The one in Las Vegas, the swing is all over the place. I go to so many different shows. In the scope of things, the largest one I've ever been to is the automobile accessories, the SEMA show in Las Vegas. I have never seen so many women in tight outfits with big hair as I did there. It's like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Because it's, you know, guys with beer and sexy women probably is not the end game that most inventors are looking for. MedTrade is more focused. It's a smaller show, but it is more focused. I've been to the National Asphalt Show. It was in a school gymnasium. It was a very good show because it was very focused. So the MedTrade tends to be more focused. You don't have as many people there to party as you do at some shows. It's, you know, a smaller show, but more focused. So we are going and looking then for, you know, licensees. I know that a lot of the hospitals that are dealing with the, well, the names right now, Cardinal, McKesson, you know, those kinds, they will have their people there shopping for new products. And so that's one of the reasons that we go. Stander is another big company that's there. They license some of my inventors' products. They're out of Utah. They manufacture 50 different products. And it's usually mobility issues that they're dealing with. So they've got, you know, products that are in the hospitals, in, you know, all the Walmarts and Targets in the pharmaceutical areas. But it's hardware type of stuff. So they will be there. I know that they've got a booth and they'll be coming shopping in our space. And I've recently sent them products that it's like, oh, we like that. Send it to us. So most of my inventors have, you know, they've got prototypes that there's a lot of them that I'm representing that we aren't necessarily taking them to MedTrade, but I am shopping them at MedTrade.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's
so I'm looking
for
for prototypes that I can send them I can send afterwards.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And there's always a good plan too. If you're going out to different conferences, and this is more for my bioscience boardroom members here listening to this, when you're presenting, it doesn't have to be on the topic at hand. Always keep your eyes and ears to the ground. You never know who you're going to bump into. Talk about what you're doing. Don't keep it so close to the chest. Once you've protected some of that, you know, it's okay to discuss, hey, I found this great idea.
When somebody says, well, my patent attorney told me that you needed to sign a non-disclosure before I could tell you about it, then get a different patent attorney. Because if he did a good job, you're protected. And if he's worried about the job he did, find a new one, because once you're patent pending, you cannot have everyone sign a non-disclosure non-compete. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly.
They make me crazy.
Well, and there are some, I was just talking about this with a client the other day. 20 years ago, my industry experience, we had a biologic we were bringing to market. So it was a vaccine in this particular case. And there's a whole bunch of different manufacturing parameters. There's lots of patents around it. And the patents have these wide variabilities. So it's a well-drafted patent. But you know that there's this sweet spot over here and this sweet spot over there. But that's the trade secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about the patent, but there's some key components within it that'll actually make it or break it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating strategy when you get in there, but you can't have everybody sign that NDA.
Exactly.
That's silly.
When we're at a trade show, nobody's going to sign one. Their feeling is, why are you here? If you need a non-disclosure signed, why are you even here? Because you've made a public disclosure just by posting it online.
That's right.
And that's what I try to, tell the inventors. It's like, have an attorney that's going to do a really good job on that provisional application so that you can go out the door and not have to worry about it and get the job done.
So I'm curious, how much market research do you coach your people into doing before they hit a trade show so that they can talk to people easily and say, this is, for instance, my avatar, my client avatar, this is where I'm going after?
If we've picked the trade show, if we've looked and we're at the right trade show and they know their product, all right, if they don't know their product, they're not going with me, all right, what they're looking for then is to be able to ask questions of the people who are there. So we want them to know, who generally goes to that show. So who are they looking for? As far as they're going to gather market research at a show, especially if they've just got prototypes, who's interested in this, who works in this area, who might we want to talk to, what do they see as being the market. The best market research we get is at a professional trade show.
Wow, I love that. That's such a great idea. And those connections mean everything. Those little tidbits that you gain from conversation.
Exactly. Knowing, this company over here, we've got one product where we already know that Rehab Mart wants $400 to $500 a month as soon as we can find a licensee. Well, that's good then, because when we're talking to the licensee, we know that there's a buyer lined up. And those are some of the things that we're going to look for in our market research. So market research ahead of the show, most of our market research gets done at the show.
Okay, that's great.
And I coach them then on the questions, depending on what it is and what they're looking for, the questions to ask.
Wow, that's fantastic, because there's a lot of people out there that just don't even think about it at all.
I know. They think, aha moment, get patent, make money. And it just doesn't work that way.
Oh, yes. And so the top two things that you find people come to you and you go, oh, I wish you had done this. What would those be?
I know. Don't do your own intellectual property and understand the money before you start spending it.
Oh, gosh, yes. I have seen clients drop their jaws when they understand exactly what it's going to take.
Yes, exactly. Because they think, oh, I've had this idea, and now I'll get VC funding. No, you're not going to get VC funding. All right. The VCs aren't even investing. They're not even going to entertain you in this industry, where it's, if it's software, if it's, the pharmaceuticals, right? Now you at least have a chance to get in there because they always see big dollar signs in a few years. But if you've got a kitchen gadget, no, the VCs are not interested in, pet products, even baby products to a certain degree. They really don't want hardware alone, which is fine as long as the inventor knows that. They've got to know that before they start spending money, that, there's not going to be any grants, that there's not going to be any VC funding. Even investors these days are so much more savvy in what they're asking for. And so they're not going to get money that way either. So they need to know on that front end, how much can they afford to do themselves? And how do they get teed up to be able to get to a trade show our tagline is don't spend a dime before it's time. So we are very frugal in the way we advise people to spend their money. And it's like, you cannot make a business decision. You can't do a business plan until you've been out there and you've gathered some actual numbers. So I always look, that's why I look at the Galaxy guide that I created. It's like, that's the first step. Then if you decide now you've gathered all these numbers and you want to be a startup, now you plug those numbers into your business plan. When they say, I've done a business plan, it's like, have you paid for the patent yet? Well, no, I guessed. Did you do the engineering yet? Well, no. Who did you contact to get these numbers? Well, I kind of went online and I guessed. Guessing doesn't do me any good.
No.
And it doesn't do them any good either, because what I've learned is that, you know, whatever they put together in numbers, it costs twice as much and takes twice as long.
Ugh, ain't that the truth?
And when they say, you know, they don't realize that by the time they do the patent, the engineering, the prototyping, and probably a short run manufacturing, if they can, marketing costs that much and more. And they think, you know, they'll get to that point and say, well, I don't have any money left. And they have no ability to get to a trade show. That's a problem. You can get more money for every dollar spent at a professional trade show than you can putting anything in print. Because everybody you need to talk to is at a trade show. That's where they go shopping, is at a trade show. So we always say, you know, you've got to know that at a certain point, you've got to have, you know, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 to get to that particular show where you go start meeting people, where you demo your product.
Is that how much you find it normally costs? $5,000, $10,000?
If they're going by themselves, yes. When they're going with me, I put together a team and we split the cost. And for some inventors, that makes a huge difference in what they're able to do. Big difference spending $2,000 on a show than it is $10,000 on a show.
Oh, huge.
And for some of that means they could actually go to 2 shows. You know, they can go to one as a group and then they could get their own booth. But when they get their own booth, you know, yeah, average booth space is somewhere $3,000, $4,000. I know MedTrade is on the higher, more expensive side. So just getting a booth is going to be somewhere around $3,500. You have to pay for everything. The carpet, the TV monitors, the trash cans, the tables, you have to rent everything, the electricity. My God, they'll charge you $500 to rent a TV for 3 days. You can buy one at Walmart and throw it in the trash for less than that.
Oh, yes.
So I've got a locker out in Las Vegas that's got TV monitors and carpet and furniture and tablecloths and banners and everything that we need to go and do a show.
And that's a huge thing too, right? People don't understand, just when you walk into those exhibit halls, those people have spent thousands to take up that 10 by 10 space.
I know. When we go to the National Hardware Show, I've got 400 square feet.
Whoa.
So we've got a big spot. We've got a prime spot. It's at the end of the first aisle in the main hall. But I've been going for 10 years. We've worked hard to get there. And I do full page ads in multiple places. You know, if you happen to go to that site, and I know it's not in your ballpark, but at the bottom, they've got featured exhibitors. So out of, 3,500 exhibitors, I'm one of 7 that's listed at the bottom. And so when people click on that, it goes to my site, shows the products that we're taking to that show.
And Rita, this goes back to having the right connections, to talking about it, to actually getting to the right people in order to make that a success when you have the aha moment.
Right. Exactly. Ask the right questions. That's what I've said in all my videos. Ask the right questions.
I love it.
Ask any question. Any question's better than no question.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. So final parting thought at all, and then I'd love you to also throw out your URL link, because I know that guide. I was at your site, and like I said, I was having so much fun playing through and watching. Thank you.
Read as much as you can. Ask questions before you start spending money. I think that's the most important thing for inventors to do, is to understand, are you looking for licensing, or are you a startup? If you read the Galaxy guide, it's pretty easy. I mean, 16 pages of just a workbook mentality. And it gives you then the sense of, are you a startup or are you a licensor? And once you've determined that, all right, now you can take better steps. It's when they get forced into being into startup mode, and they're forced into doing a business plan that's not going to help them. They're forced into thinking the only money they could have access to is VCs. Read about it, decide which way you are. all right, which one of those camps you fall into. And then no, you want to be able to go after the vetting process in Archimedes' offspring that gets you up to $75,000. Well, for a lot of inventors in, that early stage where they think, oh, I don't want to spend $75,000 of my own money. Let me go through the process and see if I can at least qualify. All right. So if they do some reading and they look at the resources that are there, they'll make better decisions early on that will save them money down the road. Get a search done. For $500, they can get, a search done by SearchQuest, and they know they can make better decisions. Every decision that gets made is based on the information you gathered at the last step. So you take that information and now you move on to make, gather the information for the next phase. And then they'll make better decisions. Right. Website, inventorlady.com. All the resources are right there.
Fabulous. And I would highly recommend you guys go and take a look. It is an amazing site. It has so many wonderful resources to it. Rita, beautifully done. Thank you so much for the time today. I really do appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. And anytime you've got somebody that, say, you know what, give Rita a call. I answer my phone, shoot back emails and text messages pretty quick. LinkedIn and Facebook are a little bit more challenging just of time these days, but by all means, emails, text messages, phone calls. I'm good at that.
Awesome. And I will put your email address in the Bioscience Boardroom so people have full access to that. I'll put the link as well to the Galaxy Guide if that's acceptable to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much for your time today. This was fantastic.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful Sunday.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.